The Ottoman Empire was one of the biggest empires in the history of humanity. It spanned in 3 continents and changed the geopolitical landscape in Europe and the Middle East forever. In this video, we are going to look into its formation, expansion, and the response other powers had to its rise. The story of the Ottoman Empire begins long before Osman and his followers appeared on the stage of history. In the 11th century, the Seljuk Turks migrated from Central Asia into the Middle East, gradually establishing control over large parts of the Islamic world. After their victory over the Byzantines at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071, the Seljuks opened most of Anatolia to Turkic settlement. Over the next century, many Turkic tribes moved into the region, mixing with the local populations and forming small principalities under the loose authority of the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, based in Konya. Anatolia slowly transformed from a Byzantine Christian land into a predominantly Turkish and Muslim one. By the late 13th century, however, the situation had changed. The Mongol invasions had severely weakened the Seljuks, turning them into vassals of the Mongol Ilkhanate. Their control over Anatolia fragmented, and a number of independent beyliks emerged, each ruled by a local Turkish leader, or bey. These beyliks often fought each other, but they also shared a similar environment: frontier life, constant warfare, and opportunities for expansion into the weakening Byzantine territories to the west. One of these small frontier beyliks was founded by Osman, the son of Ertugrul, around the town of Sagat in northwestern Anatolia. Osman's domain was modest, but its position on the Byzantine frontier gave it both danger. This frontier warfare not only provided material gain but also attracted warriors and settlers to Osman's cause. Osman's leadership and success in these early campaigns allowed his principality to grow and gain recognition among neighboring Turkish states. Over time, his followers began to identify themselves as Osmanlis, or Ottomans, taking his name as their own. After Osman's death, his son Orhan continued the work of building and expanding the small Ottoman principality. Under Orhan's rule, from around 1324 to 1362, the Ottomans transitioned from a frontier warband into a more organized state. One of Orhan's first major achievements was the capture of Bursa in 1326, which became the Ottomans' first major urban center and later their capital. This gave the dynasty a stable base of administration and trade in northwestern Anatolia. Orhan also introduced the first elements of state structure: a standing army, a monetary system, and an emerging bureaucracy. But the real turning point came when the Ottomans began to expand across the Dardanelles into Europe. In 1354, after an earthquake severely damaged the Byzantine fortress of Gallipoli, Ottoman forces quickly occupied the area. This foothold on European soil marked the beginning of their long-term presence in the Balkans. From their new base, Ottoman armies moved rapidly into Thrace, Macedonia, and Bulgaria. Their expansion coincided with a period of deep instability in the region. The Byzantine Empire was weakened by internal civil wars and had neither the money nor the manpower to resist effectively. The Serbian Empire, which had briefly dominated the Balkans under Stefan Dusan, fragmented after his death in 1355. Local rulers often viewed the Ottomans as one of several competing powers, and some even allied with them or accepted vassal status in exchange for autonomy. This policy of flexibility and alliance building helped the Ottomans secure territory without always needing to fight prolonged wars. At the same time, they backed their diplomacy with an increasingly professional and disciplined military. A major innovation during this period was the creation of the Janissary Corps, introduced under Murad I (1362 to 1389), Orhan's successor. The Janissaries were formed through the Devshirme system, in which Christian boys from the Balkans were taken, converted to Islam, and trained as soldiers or administrators. Unlike feudal levies, Janissaries were directly loyal to the Sultan and provided the Ottomans with a centralized, permanent military force. Their strict discipline, firearms training, and organization would later become a major factor in Ottoman success. Murad I also expanded Ottoman control deeper into the Balkans, establishing Edirne, Adrianople, as a new capital around 1365, symbolizing the shift of the empire's focus toward Europe. By the time of the Battle of Kosovo in 1389, the Ottomans had already become the dominant power in southeastern Europe. The battle itself, fought between the Ottomans and a coalition of Serbian, Albanian, and Bosnian nobles, ended in heavy losses for both sides, but it confirmed the Ottomans' growing influence. The rise of this new power did not go unnoticed. In Europe, the Byzantines, Serbs, and Hungarians viewed the Ottomans with increasing alarm. However, the lack of unity among Christian states, combined with rivalries between the Venetians and Genoese over trade routes, prevented a coordinated response. By the middle of the 15th century, the Ottoman state had become the dominant power in both Anatolia and the Balkans. Under Murad II, and later his son Mehmed II, the Ottomans had consolidated their territories and reorganized their military and administration. The remaining obstacle to complete regional control was the Byzantine Empire, reduced by this point to little more than the city of Constantinople and a few scattered territories. When Mehmed II came to the throne in 1451, he was determined to capture the Byzantine capital. Constantinople's strategic position, controlling the passage between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, made it crucial for trade and military movement. It also had immense symbolic value as the old capital of the Roman Empire and the seat of Eastern Christianity. The siege of Constantinople began in April 1453. The Ottomans employed an army of perhaps 60,000 to 80,000 men, supported by a powerful artillery corps, including large cannons capable of breaking the city's ancient walls, which had protected it for nearly 1,000 years. The Byzantines, led by Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos, had far fewer troops, perhaps 7,000 to 8,000, and limited supplies. They hoped for aid from Western Europe, but the response from the papacy and Venice came too late and in too small a scale to make a difference. Mehmed's forces surrounded the city by land and sea. After nearly 7 weeks of siege and repeated assaults, the Ottoman army finally broke through the walls on May 29, 1453. Constantine XI was killed in the fighting, and the city fell to the Ottomans. Mehmed entered the city shortly afterward and declared it the new capital of his empire. Under Suleiman I, known as the Magnificent in Europe and the lawgiver in the Islamic world, the Ottoman Empire reached the peak of its territorial and political power. Ruling from 1520 to 1566, Suleiman expanded the empire's borders farther than any sultan before or after him. In Europe, his armies captured Belgrade, 1521, won a decisive victory at the Battle of Mohacs, 1526, and brought most of Hungary under Ottoman control. In 1529, the Ottomans besieged Vienna, demonstrating their reach into Central Europe, though the siege failed. These campaigns made the empire a constant rival to the Habsburgs, shaping European politics for decades. In the east, Suleiman fought the Safavid Empire of Persia, securing Iraq and eastern Anatolia. At sea, the Ottomans under admirals like Hayreddin Barbarossa dominated the eastern Mediterranean and North Africa, defeating European fleets and expanding Ottoman naval influence as far as the Red Sea. His reign saw a flourishing of architecture, art, and literature, especially under the imperial architect Mimar Sinan, who transformed the skyline of Istanbul.